Hello everyone, in this session we'll be learning about Python. The first question which we should ask is why do we need to learn Python? And the answer might include Python works on different platforms like Windows, Mac, Linux, and even on Raspberry Pis. Python has a simple syntax similar to what is in the English language. Python has syntax that allows developer to write program with fewer lines than other programming languages. Python runs on an interpreter system, means that code can be executed as soon as it is written. This means that prototyping in Python is very easy. Basically, writing code in Python is very easy and you can do the same amount of work as compared to other languages in Python in a very short amount of time and with a short uh, amount of code. So that's why we should learn and start learning with Python. Now let's get ahead. The most recent major version of Python is Python 3, which we shall be using in this session. However, Python 2 is also there, but the update for Python 2 has been dismissed because of some security updates. So in this session, we'll be learning about Python and we'll be starting with introduction and installation of Python. Then we'll look for simple Python syntax with some hands-on experience. Then as you write some function in JavaScript session, similarly, we'll write some functions in Python. Then we'll know about different type of data structures in Python. And at the end, we'll learn about classes and object and going into object-oriented programming. Python was created by Guido van Rossum and released in 1991. First, it was made to teach people about programming, and that's why making it close to English language. But since then, it's getting popular and popular day by day. Now it's used in most of the places because it helps write readable, clean, and logical code. Let's look at features of Python one by one. As we looked about it earlier, writing code in Python is very easy. There's a short amount of code to do the same thing, which as compared to other languages might take a long codes. Python is an open source and a free language, which means right now you can go into Python community and can even contribute in the development of next Python feature. But not every language is free. For example, to use the development environment of JavaScript of the Java, you need to pay to Oracle, whereas Python is totally free for any operating system. Because of availability of many libraries in Python, it's easy to create graphical user interfaces in Python, which in turn means that you can easily make apps in Python for phone and for Windows or for laptops. Python supports object-oriented approach, as Python is itself an object-oriented programming language. We will learn more about object-oriented programming in later in this session. . Python is a high level language, which means you don't need to worry about the CPU allocation and how the things work at inside the CPU. But it does not mean that you cannot access those features in Python. As Python is an interpreter language, here the code runs line by line, which makes it easy for us to see if there is some bug or not. Python is most highly and portable language where to run a Python program, you just need the Python interpreter. You can write code in one laptop and send it to other laptop and there it will run the same. So it does not depend where you develop your Python code. It can be Mac, Linux, or Windows, but the program will remain same and work same. And that's why it's very portable. Python is very dynamic language. Here, you don't need to worry about the input size. Like in other languages, you need to specify before using any data, you need to give the amount of data that you'll be using. But in Python, because it's very dynamic, you need not to worry about the input sizes. Those are handled by Python itself, making our coding easy. One of the best features of Python is that there exist a lot of arrays of libraries written in Python, which you can use using a single line of code. All these libraries will eventually are highly efficient, and that's why you need not to write your own piece of code. You can just use these freely available libraries to build your project. As Python is written in C only, that's why you can write C++ code inside Python and then execute them. You can use you can use Anaconda to install Python. Anaconda is a package manager for Python. What it means is that it is easy to manage libraries versions using Anaconda. You can download Anaconda from the link given below. Note that do not forget to take the add anaconda to my path variable while installation. So we talked a lot about the theory of Python. Let's now get into the details of Python while implementing subcode. First thing which we need while implementing a code is a text editor. A text editor is a software where you write the text. Code is also a text but with some context and with some syntax. There are a lot of text editor in the market. You can choose whatever you want. It's all your preference. In this session, we'll be using a VS Code. Why I use a VS Code is because of the code intelligence it provides. You might ask, what is a code intelligence? A code intelligence is a tool, a built-in tool in a VS Code is that, for example, when you write an HTML code, you start with an HTML tag and at the end we end the code with an ending HTML tag. So what a code intelligence provides is that while I'm writing the opening HTML tag, as soon as I create an opening HTML tag, it automatically writes the ending tag along with it so that I don't forget to write it. And also as it automatically adds the ending tag, I don't have to write it again. So it saves a lot of time. That's why I prefer using VS Code because of these features, but it's all open to you. You can choose whatever you want. It's just that you need a place where you can write some text and finally save it and give that file to the Python so that it can run. Okay, this was all about the text editors. Let's see how we can write a simple Hello World program in Python. On the right, we have the Hello World program for the Python. On the left, we have the same program. It does the same thing, but written in C++. As you can see, the program written in C++ took 10 lines, whereas in Python, we can do the same thing in just one line. So writing a code in Python is easy, and it's quite easy to understand and read the code. Let's see more on why there is so much difference in writing the code in C++ and Python. So the difference in these two languages starts from the type of languages they are. In general, there are two types of language. First is like the C++ and the other one is like the Python. In the C++, the code is compiled. That's why it's called a compiled language. Whereas in Python, there's a there is no compiler, there is an interpreter which interprets the code. So let's see what is the difference in compiled language and an interpreted language. The distribution of code in compiled language is something like you write a program, then you compile it using a compiler, then you get some different file, which is a compiled version of that code. Then then if someone wants to run your code, you can give them the compiled version of your code and it can run in different platforms. But there's a trick that the compiler which compiled the C++ code needs to be same in all the places where you want to run this code. Whereas in Python, which is an interpreter language, you write a code in a text file. There's an interpreter which understands this text file. So when you give the interpreter your script or a code, this text file, it can run line by line on that text file or in that code file and understand the whole code. So if you want someone else to use your code, you can give them the script or a text file. So you write a script, distribute it, and anyone who have this file can use it and give it to interpreter and the interpreter can run this program line by line. Next, we have written the Python code, the hello world Python code. We just saw it. It was just one line, print hello world. So now let's try to run this code. So to run this code, we first need a Windows PowerShell, or if you're in Ubuntu, you need a terminal, or in the Mac, you need the same, a terminal. So basically a place where you can command the Python to run some file. So to do that, we first need to go into the folder where our files are located. Let's say our files are somewhere in the desktop. We have a folder named Python 101. Then inside that Python 101 folder, we have some file which is like hello.py file, and there we want to run that hello world program. We use this cd command, which is nothing but stands for change directory. We first use this command to get to the location where our code is present. We use that cd program and went to the location or the directory where our code is present. Like in here, we are inside the Python 101 folder. After reaching inside this directory, we can command the Python interpreter to run a file using Python space, then the name of the file, which will include a .py in it. So the final command will be Python, then the name of the file, then .py. Something like this. Python hello world.py file. So whatever the code which we write inside this hello world.py file will now be interpreted, or the Python will run that code in this terminal here. So if we print something inside the hello world.py file, we can see the output inside this PowerShell or inside this terminal. To further develop an understanding of a language, we need to understand what are variables. You can imagine variables to be something like a box, and they have a name on that box. For example, if you want to store some food items, you might choose different type of boxes. If you are packing and going for a trip and you want to store your clothes, the box which you want to store your clothes will be different from the box which you'll use to store your lunch. So variables are something similar to boxes only, and they have some name inside it on the box, and each box is of different type which is used to save a different kind of thing. For example, we can have one box which only saves the number. Like there's a box and there's a name of the box is score, and inside this box there is a number present which is 35. So the variable is 35 and the name of this variable is score, and the type of box which we are saving is an integer type box, or we can say that the variable which we are using here is an integer type variable, in short int. Next we have is another type of number. The 35.1 is not an integer, so we use a different box to save this information, and these type of boxes are called float. The 35.1 is a real number. You can see this number on the real line, and to save these numbers, the real numbers, we use a float type of box. So for here, we have the name of the box to be score, and the value present inside that box is 35.1. And the name of these types of box is a float. Next, we have a box which saves the name of things, like a name of a person, or a name of a fruit, or a name of a tree. Here we are saving a name of a person. For example, Bob. So we have a box which saves the name. These types of boxes are called strings, or you can say these types of variables are called strings, which can save the text. Everything which you are seeing on the screen is actually a text. So a string variable or a string box, you may say, can save a text file inside it. So name is the name of the variable and Bob is the value of the string saved inside that variable. Next, we can also save the information about true or false, or you can say a Boolean value. We can do this using a bool variable, or you can say a box which contains the bool information, which is true or false. The name of this box is winner and the type of information it's storing is a bool. Further, these boxes are actually, you can take the information from one box and put it inside the other box. This process is called typecasting, which means you can take a bool or a Boolean information and can convert into a string information. Or you can say you can take the item which was kept inside a bool type of box and pick it up and put it inside the string type of box. Similarly, you can convert the string type of box information inside the string type of box into an int type of box or an integer type of box. Similarly for bool. And altogether, you can convert information in any kind of variable into another form. This is not restricted to any one particular form. That's why Python is called dynamic. We talked a lot about different type of variables in Python. We used an example of boxes to demonstrate different type of variables in Python. Let's try to implement a code and there understand what are these different type of variables and how we can implement them inside a code. So now I will open my text editor and write the Python code. This is the Visual Studio Code text editor. I will make a new file inside it. First, let's try to create our Hello World program, which we saw earlier. There we said print, then inside print we said Hello World. Let's save this file using Ctrl S. One thing to note is that you can give whatever name you want to this Python file, just that you need to add a .py extension right after the name of a file. So I will give this name as hello and with the extension .py. Hit save. And as you can see now, the plain white text which it was earlier is converted into some color coded text. The text in print and the text in hello world are of different color. This is where the text editor comes in play. The Visual Studio Code is now coloring them differently on the basis of their functionality. This is done to better have a visual meaning of the code. When you have a long codes, then text editor will try to give the part similar color on the basis of their functionalities. This will help a user to read through the code. Now let's try To run this Python script, we can open a terminal inside the Visual Studio Code with the help of two keys, which are Ctrl plus tilde. As you press the Ctrl plus tilde, a terminal will pop up inside the code editor. This terminal is similar to what you have as a PowerShell, or the terminal is similar to what in Mac or Ubuntu they have as a terminal. Now let's run our Python file. As we saw, to run the Python file, we need to execute a command which was python3 then the name of the file, and the name of the file here is hello.py. Let's hit enter and see what the result will be. Here we have got the string hello world. So our Python is working correctly and we are getting the exact result which we wanted. With the help of a Python code, we are printing hello world on the terminal. Let's get back to our study of variables. We'll close this and let's try to understand variables inside this hello.py file. First, let's try to create an integer variable. X equals to 1, and 1 is an integer. So X is an integer type variable now. Let's create an float type variable. Float numbers have decimal inside them. So maybe 1.2 we can give to Y. Now Y is a float type of variable. Let's give some string and Z equals to hello world. Now Z is a string type of variable. There are two ways to define a string variable. First is directly use a double quote, or the second way is to use a double quote but 3 times. The difference is that you can give multiple lines inside the triple quoted string as a variable. Something like big Z equals to, we use a triple quote and then we can break this into a bigger string. So now you can give a string on 3 different lines. Big Z and Z both are same string type of variables. And note that in Python, single quote and double quote have the same meaning. So now let's recap. X is an int type of variable. Y is a float type of variable. Z and big Z are a string type of variable. Let's try to print each of them one by one. Print X, then Y, then Z, save it. And let's get back to our terminal. And there we run hello.py file with the help of python3 command. Let's hit enter. We have got 1, 1.2 and hello world, which is exactly the values which were saved in these 3 variables. So you can call these variables according to the name they were given. Let's get back to the slide. operators, and in operators we have some arithmetic and some logical expression. Operators are nothing but some mathematical expressions like plus, minus, multiply, divide. Let's see how we can do that inside our Python code. In the bracket, we have the symbols of the operator which we will be using inside the Python code to execute the functionality as given in the name. So for addition, we use an add sign. To add two integers, we will put the add operator or the add sign inside between both of them. We can add two strings similarly. We can subtract, multiply, divide on the same way. The floor division, modulus, and power are different mathematical expressions which we'll see in the code further. Let's open our text editor and try to see this in working. Let's create a variable of type int x equals to 1 and another of type float y equals to 1.0. Now let's print x plus y. We'll open the terminal, run the code. As we saw, we got 2.0. This plus here is an operator. It's an arithmetic operator which is doing as we want. It's adding the two numbers. Let's try to subtract these two numbers and run the same file in a terminal again. As expected, we have got 0. Let's try divide and increase this to 10 and y to 2. Let's run this file again. We got 5. Now the floor division is actually the integer division of the number. Something like if 3 is floor divided by 2, then we get 1 because else is a remainder. Save this and let's try to run this file again. As expected, we got 1. Let's try it on 11. Save it and run this file. As expected, we got 5 and the remainder will be 1. So the floor division gets the integer value. Similarly, let's try to get modulus. The x modulus y is nothing but will give the remainder when we will try to divide 11 with the 2. We get 1. Or we can try 11 with 3. Run this file, we get 2. So the floor division gets the integer value of the division and the modulus give us the remainder. And the last one is power. So we can have x equals to be 4 and y equals to be 3. For using a power operator, we need to specify multiplication sign 2 times. This means x raised to power y. Let's save this and print this. We get 64 because 4 cubed is 64. let's close this and get back to our slides. What we saw earlier were the arithmetic operators. Similarly, we have some logical operators. Putting these signs between two variables will give us some logical output. Logical here means in the Boolean space, where the things can only be true or false. Let's try to run inside our code and see the results. Let's again write x equals to be 2 and y equal to 1, and we will use a greater than sign and a less than sign to see which one is greater and which one is less than. 2, then a greater than sign 1. As we know 2 is greater than 1, we will run this code and we saw the value to be true. This is because 2 was greater than 1. Now let's flip the sign as less than. As we know 2 is not less than 1, so while running this code we will get false, and exactly that's what we get. Similarly, we have an equality operator. We use equal sign 2 times. This is not for assigning the 2 as a 1 value. It will check either the left hand side and the right hand side are equal or not. If they will be equal, the result will be true, and if they are not equal, the result will be false. Let's try to run this. As we know 2 is not equal to 1, so the result is false. Let's try to replace this with 2 and run our file, and now it's true because 2 is equal to 2. Now let's try to change the variable type as a float. So 2 of integer, is it equal to 2 of float? Let's try to run this, and obviously the exact value is same. So 2 in integer is equal to 2 in float. Now we have some greater than sign and less than sign. Let's try them out. So we have, is 5 greater than or equal to 2 or not? So we'll print this, and this is true because 5 is greater than 2. Let's replace this 5 as 2. 2 is not greater than 2, but it is equal to 2. That's why we should get true, and we did get true. Now let's try to flip this. Is 2 less than or equals to 2? Yes, it is equals to 2. That's why we got true. Replace this with 5 and run our code. We get false because 5 is not less than 2, nor it is equal to 2. That's why we got this statement as false. Like equality, we have disequality here, where we say not, this is the not sign, then equal. So this operator says 5 is not equal to 2, which is true. 5 is not equal to 2. So after running this file, we must get as you saw, we were getting false. Was because we forgot to save the file. So while writing a code, don't forget to save the file after you try to change it and rerun the program. You might get the different result and be surprised like me. So after saving this file, let's try to run our program and we'll see it is true as expected. 5 is not equal to 2. But let's replace this 2 with 5 and check our result again. It is false because 5 is equal to 5 is equals to 5, so not equal to will give a negative result, which is false. These were our logical operators. We can use them to distinguish whether the quantity is greater or less than, and all the other logical operations can be performed using these operators. These logical operators can also be combined together to create a logical expression. Something like we can have one statement where we are judging if it's true or false, then we can equate them with the help of OR, which will combine the result. This is similar to the OR gate which we study in electronics. And the second is the AND gate which we study in electronics. So if two truths are odd together, the result will be true. And if one of them is false, even then the result will be true. But it's not the same case with AND. AND is like an AND is like an AND gate. Both of the input should be true there. So similarly, we can say here both of the side on the left hand side and the right hand side should be true to make an AND expression true. Let's try to write some code to get a better understanding of OR and AND for combining the logical operators. We'll get back to our file here. We'll delete this and we can say print 5 is less than. Here we can say 5 is less than 2 and 5 is less than 3. Let's start with simple. As we know, both of these statements are false. 5 is not less than 2, 5 is not less than 3. So the AND combination of false and false must be false. Run this and we saw we got a false. Let's try to flip one side. As we know, 5 is greater than 2. So this side of statement on AND on the left hand side is true, while on the right hand side it is still false. So the combination will remain false. As you can see, the combination still remains false. Now flip this side also, and 5 is greater than 2 and 5 is greater than 3. Now on the both side of AND we have true statement. Let's try to print this and we got a true. Now let's replace this AND with OR, which will work as an OR gate now. So on one side, let's create a false statement which says 5 is less than 2, or the second statement says 5 is greater than 3. So one of them is true and the 5 is greater than 3 is true, where the 5 is less than 2 is false. So false or with true will be true. As you saw the result, it is true because in OR, if either one is true, the final result will be true. Let's save this in our Boolean expression like b equals to 10 less than 5. Now print this b. As we saw, the b will be bool and here it will be equals to false as 10 is not less than 5. But we can change this whole expression taking them inside a parenthesis and we can say not. And let's try to run this program again and we got a true. Not acts like a NOT gate which inverts whatever the boolean is inside it. So not of false is true. That's why we got true in output. Earlier, we saw a lot of integer and a float variables, and we tried different arithmetic and logical operators on these variables. Now we'll use the string variables and we'll see different operators working on the string. Like the plus operator, which we were using between the integer and a float to get the sum of the two variables. Similarly, we have a plus operator here for a strings. It helps to add two strings, or in short, we can say it concatenates two strings. It joins the two strings together. Similarly, we have a multiplication operator for strings, which does the multiplication on strings. As in, if we have a string and we use this multiplication operator, then specify the number, then the particular variable of string will be repeated those number of times and will concatenate it together as a one string. Further, we have a square bracket. Square bracket on a string is used to extract the character on a particular position. Inside these square brackets, we can use a colon. These colons are used to extract a certain length of the characters in a certain way from a particular string. Let's know more about these operators with some hands-on experience. So let's open our text editor and we'll write some code there. First of all, let's try to create our first variable as string1 and let's say it is hello. Similarly, we have another s2 variable which is word. Let's try to use our plus operator and print what is s1 plus s2. This plus operator is between two string variables. Let's see what our result will be. We run our file and we saw hello world as a one word because the plus operators just joins these two strings together. It concatenates these two strings. The plus operator does not add any space to look it more uh, beautiful. It just joins two strings. Now let's try our multiplication operator onto a string. We can say S1 multiplied 3 times. Let's save this and run our program. We can say we can see hello is being printed 3 times. It is because the multiplication operator worked on a string 1 and repeated it 3 times and then concatenated them all together into one string, joined them all into one string which says hello but 3 times. Similarly, we can use S1 and then use our square bracket. Then inside the square bracket, we need to specify the position of the inside the string whose character which we want to extract. So if we want to get the first character in a string 1, which is he here, we need to give a position of this character inside the string. In natural counting, the he is at h in a hello is at first position. Like the h character in the hello word is at first position. But in Python, the counting starts from 0. It does not start from natural 1. So the h is at 0th position, e is at first position, l is at second position, second l is at third position, and o is at fourth position. So to extract the first character in the S1 string, we need to give the position of first character, which is 0. Let's save this and run our program. We got h printed as the h is the first character. Similarly, we can try to print what is at the second position in the S1 string. We got e as e is at the second position. So this is the way how counting goes in forward direction. It starts from 0. Similarly, we have the counting in reverse direction. In Python, while counting from reverse direction, we specify -1. Minus to specify the reverse direction, and 1 is the counting of the last index or the last position. So -1 specifies the last position in a string, which will have a character of O. So let's save this and run our program. It says O. Similarly, to go one step back from backward, we need to specify the location of the second last character, which is at -2. Let's save our program and run it. We got L because L is at the second position from the last. So the counting from reverse direction will be something like -1, then -2, then -3, then -4, then -5. Now let's use a colon to extract a certain length of string from our S1 string. So what if we want only the he from hello string? So we need to specify the starting position, which is 0, and we need to specify the ending position where our string should end, which is at second position. So what the S1 string will extract is it starts looking from 0th position, which is h, and it goes to 1, then it stops when it hits the ending position, which is 2. So what we'll get is only the he as an output. Let's try to run it. And we only got he. Note that it might look like on the left hand side, the integer which we gave is being included in our output, and on the right hand side, the integer which we gave is not being included inside the output length. Now let's try to know how we can extract the characters in a certain way. Suppose we want to extract characters in only the odd characters. or the characters which occur only at odd position. Like here, H is at 0th position, then we don't want E, we want L, then uh, we don't want the second L, then we want the O. So we want to skip all the even position uh, characters. So we can do that by specifying first the length over which we want to uh, go through to extract the character. Then we need to specify the skipping rate at which we should skip the characters. And here the number goes is 2. So whatever number we give here will be subtracted by 1, and that will be the skipping rate every time the Python will follow. So what does this whole string mean is that start counting from 0, go till you hit the 5th index, and skip every 2 minus first, which is equal to 1 element while doing so. So it starts from 0, can skips the first, then get to L, then skips the second L, and then goes to O. So let's try to print the output. It is HLO as expected. Now what will happen if we replace this 2 to 1? Now this 1 position is at -1 will be 0. So the skipping rate is actually 0. So the Python code will understand is from this expression is that go from 0th index to the 5th index, and while going so skip every 0th character. So it will skip nothing, and it should print the whole string. So we got the hello as a whole string in output. Let's get back to our slides. Right now, what we saw was string operations. Now, sometimes you need to also print the string in a certain way so that you can better understand the result. That's why we need string formatting. So let's try to understand this string formatting with the help of some code. As we saw, with the help of a plus operator, we can join two strings, like the name can be name and the surname can be surname, and these two are in different variables. Now, if we want to print the whole name of a person, what we will do is we can print name plus surname, but this will just concatenate the name and surname, but we also want them to have some space. So we will add a string which have only space in them. Let's try to run this. And here we can see the name and the surname are being displayed at least more visually pleasing way. We have a space between these two words. Similarly, sometimes you might have to print other variables along with the string. Right now we had string printed along with the string. If we want to print an integer with the string, what should we do? Like if we want to print a name, then we want to print the rank of that person. We can say rank equals to 3, and then we can write here rank. First the name variable added with a space, then a rank. Let's try to print this. We got some error here. The string did not print. This is because the rank is an integer type variable where these two variables which we were trying to concatenate were the string type. So the operator can work inside here, but this operator is not defined yet. We don't have any operator which works between string and an integer. So we cannot print our rank with the name in this way. So this is why we need some string formatting so that we can print different type of variables along with the string. So we can say that this is the place where you will use formatting. So let's say we want to have a greeting for every person with that person name and the rank. So we can say greeting, then we have the string, whichever string we want. So we can say congratulations. Then here we want the name of that person. Then we here the name should be gone here. Then we want to say the rank of that person. So the second thing should be the rank. This is the way we want the greeting to be. So to achieve that, we use these curly brackets inside the string. And here we can specify a variable, maybe variable 1, variable 2. Let's get this a bit bigger. Then at the end, we need to use a format function like this. Then we can say inside here v1 is name and v2 variable is rank. So we had two variables v1 and v2 inside the string. Then we use format like this. Within the format, we said v1 is equal to name variable and the v2 is equal to rank variable. Let's try to print our greeting string variable. As we saw, congratulations, then the name, and then the rank came. This is what we wanted. Right now, the greeting string looks a bit longer and we need to have two more variables inside it. So why not make it shorter? We can do this by having a shorter form of format function. We can start it by adding f at the starting. Then within the double quotes, we can have the whole string. This f means it's formatted string. We can say congratulations. Then within the curly bracket, we can directly give the variable. Then in the other curly bracket, we can give another variable, and these variable can be of any type. Now let's print our result and let's see if we got the same result, but it's a much more shorter way of getting the same result. These are called the formatted string, and f we use f and the starting of the double quotes to get our formatted string. Let's get back to our slides and go further. Like the format method or the function which we just use after that string, there are many inbuilt methods, and you can use these methods in a similar way we use format, which is over here. Similarly, we have a capitalize method. If you write a string and at the end you add dot capitalize, it will convert the whole string to be of uppercase, which means like the hello word which we had earlier, it was all the characters were the small characters. They were lowercase characters. And if we use this capitalize over there instead of format, it would have converted our hello world string into a full uppercase hello world string. Similarly, there are a lot of methods you can use directly onto a string. Here is a list. You can try them out later.